Hey everybody, it's Jordan from Take Lessons here. In this video we're going to cover some of the basics of music notation for piano. So get out some staff paper, some music staff paper. If you're fresh out, then just type staff paper into any search engine and you will find the 5-lined music notation paper that we're looking for. Okay, so before we get into piano music notation, we just want to make sure that we are really solid on the musical alphabet, meaning A through G, and where that falls on the piano keyboard. So we, in our other video that covered the parts of the keyboard, we got pretty in depth on how to find all these notes. So if you need to review that, go ahead and review that. Similarly, I was able to print my staff paper from the internet for free. You can also find plenty of piano keyboard note charts available. So if you need to grab one of those and print that out, feel free to use that. But we do need to know this because we're going to get quizzed on this later after we cover the notation side of it. So with that, the first music notation we're going to cover is the treble clef, otherwise known as the G clef, named such because it tells us where to find G on the staff. So the staff is these 5 lines here. This is a little bit of a lopsided treble clef, but the idea is that other than looking a little bit like a G, you'll notice that the bottom half of it basically gives us a nice bullseye right there on the second line, which is the G line. Meaning, if there's any notation, and we're not going to cover rhythms today, but if there's any notation on the second line, whether the stem is going up or down, and when I say on the line, I mean the line is going through it. These are all G's. All of those symbols mean to play a note of some length on a G note. So there's our G clef. Now from here, we can figure out all kinds of things. If this is G, again, if you need your chart, you can use that. But if this is G, then a step up from G is A. A step up from A, you'll notice I'm alternating lines and spaces. So a step up from A means going to the next line, the third line, that's going to be B. From line to space, third space is C. From space to line, fourth line is D. And continuing on, now above this we can actually add extra lines called ledger lines to continue on. And again, the same way the keyboard just goes on and on, the music notation as well will just keep on going upwards. So this is also an A. Now, also that just covers our alphabet from A to A. But let's make sure we label the entire staff of notes. So now again, I mentioned lines and spaces. That's a very, very important concept to keep track of. And so basically, let's just focus on the line aspect of this. Now, the first line of notation is an E. So there we go. This is E. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and write it right there on that line. On the second line, again, that would be G. This next one is a B. Fourth line is D. And the fifth line is F. Okay? Now, one of the popular ways of doing this is to create an acronym. Probably the most popular one is Every Good Boy Does Fine. Maybe I'm a chocolate guy, but I kind of prefer every good boy deserves fudge. So, whichever one you like, this is how I prefer to remember the treble clef lines. Treble lines. Every good boy deserves fudge. Now, how do we remember the spaces? Again, I'll write another treble clef so we remember where G is. The spaces, if you look, are actually, they spell face. So, two very useful ways to remember the treble lines. Moving on to our other clef that we're looking at today, our bass clef. This is also called the F clef, called because it shows us where the F line is. So this one's a little more straightforward to draw. You start on the fourth line up, give a little half circle down toward the bottom of the staff, a dot on either side of the fourth line, which emphasizes the position of F on the staff. So using the same system, we can plot out what are the notes on the lines and what are the notes on the spaces. And we can come up with another helpful acronym. Good boys do fine. And here's the F line. Always. So good boys do fine always helps us remember the lines of the bass clef. And to remember the spaces, I don't know about this one. If you think of something, let me know. But I guess I have to admit, I had a teacher who said, he told me this, and I didn't think I would remember it ever. But it's kind of true. I do remember him saying ace G, which is one way you can remember these. But at that point, hopefully we've just memorized where all the notes are. Let's do a quick little quiz just to see how well we know our notes. And hopefully you don't need this. If you need this, keep practicing this until it's absolutely, absolutely memorized. But if you do need it to get started, that would be fine. So, first things first, testing you on your treble clef. Start with an A. So you can just put a circle on the line or space where the note I'm asking for is. Next, give me an E. Might be more than one correct answer for this. Show me a B. Next, let's do F. We have more than one right answer for this one. Next, let's do C. And finally, G. And I'm sorry, one more. D. Okay, let's try this a little bit of a different way. What note is this? Oh, and of course, what note is this on the treble clef? Let's see. What note is this? F. What note is this? That would be B. Hopefully you're not cheating too much by looking up here. What note is this? That would be D. And what note is this? What note is this? Fourth space. And what note is this? Oops. Okay. So we kind of did two approaches. We went letter first, then the notation. Then we went notation, then the letter. So really trying to make these connections because we want to know what does this mean? What do we do? And that means we have to know where those notes lay on the keyboard. Let's continue on and quiz ourselves on the bass clef. So let's start out with the letters, and then you fill in the notation that matches up with the letter. So let's start with A as well for the bass clef. D would be third line. Next, let's do G. Two answers would be acceptable for this. The space above F line, of course. And the good, for the good boys do fine always. And F. This should be an easy one. And B. And E. There we go. So, last part of our quiz. Let's just do the opposite. I will write out some notes and then try to fill those in. So thank you for joining us. Hopefully you had fun, and hopefully you have a really clear idea about what these symbols mean, the treble clef and the bass clef, how that affects the notes on the staff so that you know what letters match with what symbols. And then we need to know how that translates over to the keyboard. So hopefully you have a good understanding of that. But if you don't, that's fine. Some of this stuff, it takes 5 minutes to learn, but a lifetime to master. So just keep sticking with it until you have it really fast on every note. But thanks again for joining us. Again, if you are interested in private lessons and really diving in a little deeper on these subjects, look me up or look up any of the great teachers that are available on takelessons.com. So stick with us. We got lots more great videos coming up, and thanks for joining us. See you next time.